Wood, wood, wood,
St. Sinners
wood,
Hospital, Ward 3.
wood. This is the wood where Mr. Vigil was brought, apparently.
We've already been here. To be frank, I'm a little worried about seeing him again.
Oh, there he is.
The lawyer. Hello again.
Is he gonna sad Vogue at us again? Like. Sorry, it's such a mood to sad Vogue. Are you feeling well? Are you feeling better now, Mr. Vigil?
I don't know. In a way, it seems like as emo can go.
Yeah, to Vogue sadly in the corner is probably the most emo thing you can do.
I feel like that's like literally like a Fall Out Boy line. Or maybe song name.
Yeah.
Vogue sadly in the corner.
Voguing sadly in the corner.
I don't know, that's too short.
Yeah, no, voguing sadly in the corner at my ex-girlfriend's party. Like, that's probably what it would be.
My ex-girlfriend's party that I clearly wasn't invited to.
Oh yeah.
Winter song in parentheses.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. That I clearly wasn't invited to. Just like, mwah.
Well, you also need like the little more thing of like parentheses winter song.
Yeah.
It still always just has one layer too many still. When you already thought it was too far.
Yeah.
Like, I swear sometimes the titles are longer than their, like, chorus.
Yeah. I do want to use my my once per video line of, please comment below with your favorite made up Fall Out Boy title song. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell button to stay up to date with all the fun content that we're doing. And it just occurred to me that you split these VODs into multiple videos.
Listen,
so
you don't know where the split's happening?
I should be able to do these more than once.
No, you get one per trio of videos.
Oh, it's every 3 times. Okay, I'm gonna split this. You get 1 an hour.
No, you get one per trio of videos.
If it splits into 3, then
they're not an even split. And sometimes it's not 3, sometimes it's 4.
You win this round, but I'll get my comeuppance. You wait. I'm going to advertise your content and support you, whether you like it or not.
Yes, thank you. Somewhat better. I'm sorry to have caused you to... I mean, it was because of me. If I hadn't exposed your secret and forced you to remember things you obviously tried to forget. The prosecution was here until a few moments ago, too. You just missed him. Oh, Cosmo beat us to it. He said much the same as you. He was very apologetic.
Aw, Cosmo.
But the truth is, I brought this all upon myself. Please, don't think like that.
Sad vote.
Keeping it from Evie, my wife, all these years.
Sad
I've
Borat.
carried such a sense of guilt. But that's not the worst of it. Over time, I obviously came to deceive myself as well.
You mean about your dismissal?
Looking back now, I'm beginning to think that perhaps Inspector Gregson didn't stumble across me by accident at all. I mean, he compensated me so generously for acting as his stand-in. He was clearly concerned for my well-being and doing what he could to help. So perhaps Gregson knew exactly what had become of Mr. Vigil all along then. I'm sure this is just desserts for 10 years of lies and deception. But It wasn't me that helped the professor escape 10 years ago. It wasn't me. I swear it. I swear it's true.
Oh, Mr. Vigil.
I'm sure you'd rather not dredge up even more from your past at this time, but if possible, could you tell us exactly what really happened? That look! It's like, really? You're really going to do this right now? I'm like on the verge of jumping out that window again right now.
I am internalizing so much trauma, and you just want me to say it again.
I want to. I need to get all of this off my chest. I just want someone to tell me what I should have done.
I feel like you could do a pretty good Daily Vigil cosplay.
God, please no.
Like, yeah, you got like a fairly similar build to him. Like, we just have to curl. It's just sad, Vogue. I don't think I've ever seen you touch your face in such a way, and that was like downright erotic.
God, let's just converse with them.
Yeah, I mean, you're the one that has a controller.
Inspector Gregson was obviously engaged in a special operation of some sort. He was investigating something that even Scotland Yard couldn't know about. Details of the Reaper's marks, yes. It was when he had to carry out those investigations that I would take his identification and impersonate him. He'd pretend to be the inspector and carry out investigations on his behalf. Oh no, never. A common street peddler couldn't possibly carry out a proper police investigation. All I would do is go to the specified location and make a little hoo-ha.
Is that what they call it nowadays?
Just something to leave an impression. So everyone there would think a detective called Gregson was here. Making a hoo-ha right in front of my salad.
So, that's what you were doing on the day prior to the incident. Right in front of Mr. Riano's case salad.
Yes, he asked me to make an appearance on the park on Lime Street for the Red-Headed League event. So as usual, I flashed the inspector's identification around and was very vocal about my presence.
But then you were taken prisoner by those red-headed frosters.
Yes. So, you'd always make a point of showing Gregson's identification generally being loud. That's what the inspector asked me to do, yes.
Well, there's one way of becoming a legendary
Oops.
detective, I suppose. Not one something.
I didn't mean to hit the button.
Not a good one, though.
And as you know, I suffered this bruising around my neck at their hands. Also, Iris just insulted somebody she apparently was very close to, like, 2 days ago.
Yeah, I mean, they were good friends. Like, genuinely.
Yeah, she's just like, wow. I guess that's one way to be an impressive detective. Jeez.
I mean, I guess if you want to be a scumbag, then I guess you could do that.
Guess he was pretty shitty at his job.
I don't even know why I wrote him my novels. What a piece of crap.
Jeez, I purposely made him sound awful in my novels, and it turned out I actually made him sound good.
If I could go back, I'd just erase him from all the novels I ever wrote. And put Gina in them instead.
I would just
That's like
rewrite
canon.
them as the great detective and some shitty guy.
Do you want me to
But
do
the
one more? I was gonna say, are you waiting?
I don't know, I didn't know if we were done. But the following day, they kept their word and released me. Without returning the inspector's identification to you, however. We had arranged to meet in the Fresno Street room at 5 that day, so I could report back to the inspector. But at the agreed time, that's when I heard the gunshot.
The gunshot.
It was at midnight on 17th of June, 10 years ago. It was the time scheduled for the execution. But the professor's execution never actually took place, did it?
Rather, the execution itself was being used to effect the plan of escape. I hardly dare to imagine what a chilling plan it was.
Barclay was renowned for being the highest security prison in the country. Everything that went in or out of the place was searched multiple times. But there was one notable exception. Or rather, one notable loophole. Something that was never questioned. I have a feeling I know what that loophole was now. The coffins into which the bodies of the executed convicts were placed, correct? Yes. Once the coroner had confirmed the death of a condemned convict, the body was taken in its coffin for immediate burial in Locate Cemetery just behind the prison. The chief warder first had to sign the necessary papers. And after that, no member of staff was permitted to touch the coffin containing the body again.
Huh.
When executions took place, only the executioner and the coroner were permitted inside the chamber. I would wait in the adjacent room for word that the condemned convict was dead. On that occasion, once I had that confirmation, I went into the mortuary to find a lone coffin, as usual. The procedure was that I would sign the paperwork, having checked the coffin, then nail it shut. But for some reason that day, the coffin was already nailed shut.
No!
I didn't think anything of it at the time. I assumed that my deputy must have checked the coffin and nailed it shut before I arrived. So you mean the coffin contained... Yes, I can only imagine that Asogi, having escaped his execution somehow, was alive inside the coffin. The coffin was then taken out through the main gates and deposited in Lowgate Cemetery.
Presumably, there wouldn't have been enough air inside to breathe for long.
So in the early hours following the burial, someone dug up the coffin again and set Genshin free.
But in the end, he was fatally shot in the graveyard anyway. What on earth really happened at Lowgate Cemetery that night, I wonder?
I'm afraid I don't really know. All I can say with certainty are two things. Asogi couldn't possibly have escaped that way without help from somebody working in the prison. And that somebody was not me. Obviously, you knew the man then. The professor, I mean. Genshin Asogi. Yes, I remember him well, in fact. Would you mind telling us what you know? Well, having been condemned to death as he was, any contact I had with the man was short, obviously. After that trial, which was carried out behind closed doors, attended only by elite members of the judiciary, they called for his execution to be carried out at the earliest possible opportunity. The outcome of the trial was set from the beginning, wasn't it?
It was a time of delicate diplomacy when Britain and Japan were in the process of signing an important treaty. That means this potentially destabilizing case had to be dealt with swiftly and discreetly.
The man had less than a week in total. As it was the chief warder, I oversaw his short stay in the cells until his final hour. I remember being struck deeply by his noble character and incredible resilience. What do you mean exactly? He was a killer of many men, but he was always quiet and polite. He was a gentleman and a man of intellect. In fact, I couldn't bring myself to believe what he'd done, so I asked him one day.
I thought he was only there for a couple hours.
No, a week, he said.
Okay.
Those 5 members of the aristocracy whose lives were taken, were you really responsible?
He spoke like that even before the trauma?
He was always depressed.
Oh no, sad boy.
I read him before, so I guess I'll read him. I don't remember what I did for the line.
I mean, I can read it if you want.
I don't know, do you really want to?
I mean, you've been speaking for a while, so... I'm guilty of unforgivable crimes of ending another human life, yes.
The following day, the closed trial took place, and the verdict was no surprise. Guilty. That night, when he was brought back to his cell, I saw something unusual. Something unusual? What? The last will and testament of Genshin Asogi.
Why is that unusual?
As I said, it was on the night following his trial, after he'd been found guilty. I was doing the rounds of the cells, and when I looked into Asogi's, I noticed that he seemed to have a sheet of paper in his hand. Ah, his last will and testament then, presumably. As soon as he noticed me, he hurriedly shoved it behind his back.
But why did you find that so unusual? Isn't it normal for a man to pen his will when he knows his death is nigh?
Yes, that's true, but there were special conditions to Asogi's incarceration, you see. What sort of conditions? Well, even though he was held in a cell designed for condemned inmates, he was allowed to keep his personal effects with him, with one exception. Really? He was allowed his things? That is unusual, certainly. Of course, he'd been convicted of killing 5 members of the aristocracy. But at the same time, he was a guest in our country from the Empire of Japan. The powers that be were determined that his final days shouldn't be needlessly uncomfortable.
And what was the exception you mentioned to the personal effects being were allowed?
That's the point. He wasn't permitted to have writing materials. Specifically, no pens or paper.
So he was prevented from leaving any written record of what happened to him.
Yes, that was the long and short of it. I've no idea where he obtained that paper. Any writing materials would have been confiscated from him upon his incarceration. As I said, he hid the paper behind his back, and then he pleaded with me. What did you just hide behind your back?
Please, turn a blind eye. This is my lifeline.
But you know it's against the rules.
You're the only person who's seen. If you just agree to keep quiet.
Alright then. But what's on that paper? What?
It's just saying that he's such a sad boy. It's
I
so
mean, look
funny
at
to
he
me.
still looks a bit sad there.
No, you're not wrong. It's just it's so funny to me.
I just-
It's
I
gone
just-
from being like kind of sad to just being funny. Like he's
I just
always been
assume that
really
it's
sad.
probably super depressing to just solely work with people about to die.
I mean, you're not wrong. Yes, from personal experience, we don't have to get into it, but it
Oof.
is very sad. Oh, I was a hospice nurse. I don't know if you knew.
Oof.
Oh, the last will and testament.
This will it. Oh, let's see.
This will is the only weapon I have left now. Sorry. This will is it's the only weapon I have now. It's a really fun voice, dude.
How can a will be a weapon? So I decided to pretend I'd seen nothing, and I let him keep his will. But then later, it just seemed to vanish without trace.
He had one job.
What? I mean,
Like, Daily Vigil was literally instructed to not let him have paper and writing implements. And the second he sees him with a paper and a writing implement, and
Well-
the guy convinces him, like he's like,
But
I mean,
he was straight up
I
though,
get
like, this guy is a gentleman and a scholar.
no, I get it. Like, I understand. I'm just saying, like, literally, the one thing they asked him to make sure he didn't have, and he just let him have it. Like, it's like, listen, dude, I get it. I'm so sorry that like this is happening to you. You seem like a really nice guy, but I can't let you keep that piece of paper, my dog. Like, that's a big bummer. Tell me, like, maybe he like, if he explained himself clearly, Vigil is like willing to cooperate. So he could be like, listen, this goes all the way down. It goes all the way down. I didn't do it. Somebody did it and is framing me for it. I don't know. You know what I mean?
It's a will
Like-
and testament.
I guess so.
What?
It's probably also written in Japanese.
What do you mean it vanished?
It would seem that this isn't the end of the story of this mysterious will.
Its name was Will Powers. And I was the only person who saw Sogi's will, but somehow it disappeared. It was after Sogi's execution. Quotes.
Execution. Air quotes.
Which is actually an elaborate jailbreak, highlighted for emphasis.
The warlords gathered up Asogi's possessions that were in his cell. They were all to be sent back to his family home in Japan, you see.
To poor Kazuma-sama.
And you're saying that it wasn't anywhere to be found among his personal effects. The will, I mean. That's right, though I didn't search through them myself. But Governor Kaiden was livid. He was screaming, Can I have disappeared completely?
That's a really good impression.
That doesn't quite make sense, though, does it?
In what way?
Well, his impression was fairly accurate, but he did stumble a couple of times. You think he had more confidence for how accurate he can voice the best. I mean, well, we'd understood that only Mr. Vigil was aware of the will's existence. In which case, how did the prison governor know to look for it?
Well, yes, you're right. I really don't know how he knew, but it certainly seemed as though he knew of the will's existence from the outset. Only he didn't refer to it as a will. What he said was, The Asogi papers, in quotes, and highlighted.
Was it highlighted for emphasis or just plainly highlighted?
Highlighted for de-emphasis.
Emphasis.
To make it more inconspicuous. Inconspicuously highlighted.
Hiding in plain sight.
The Asogi papers. I really can't tell you anything of the subsequent events. Because, well, of what happened. Your dismissal, and the way you blocked it all from your memory. I'd forgotten all this until today. I don't suppose it's relevant to the case, though. Well, anyway, thank you very much for sharing with us, Mr. Vigil. We're very grateful.
The first time. That's the first time in this entire series somebody's thanked them for their time.
Yeah, but he's also had them pour out all his trauma and now is still leaving again.
Yeah.
I'm afraid there's really little more I can tell you. My wife Evie will be here shortly, so I do hope I don't appear rude, but... No, not at all. Thank you again. I'll let you get to your window.
I'm about to have furious sexual
I'm glad that your mic cut out for all it censored.
Censored itself. This is a mature stream.
So what will become of you now?
Well, impersonating a police officer is a criminal offense, of course. I imagine that once I'm fully recovered, I shall be arrested. I'm so sorry. Don't be, please. This was all my own doing. I always knew that this day would come. Well, I wish you well. Goodbye, Mr. Vigil. Ah! Before you go, there's just one thing. Oh, yes? What is it? Shady said poor Eeyore. The Asogi papers. I'd be very grateful if you'd make no mention of the things I told you about them. Presumably for some good reason. It's my understanding that their very existence is a closely guarded secret. If it became known that I'd remembered, well, it could be rather troublesome, I think. I understand. I'm gonna go tell everybody now. Some sort of will that Genshin Asogi penned just before his death, which the man himself claimed was his last weapon. I wonder, perhaps that had something to do with his plan to escape. If there's anyone who might know more about a document that Kazuma's father left behind.
It would be Mr. Vigil's governor. Then we know precisely where we must go, back to Barclay Prison.
It's just awful hearing him be like, please don't tell anyone, and you're just like, crap, this is Ace Attorney. I'm gonna have to probably bring it up in courtroom in front of an entire audience.
Absolutely.
Okay, where are we going?
To Barclay Prison.
Prisoner Governor's office?
Yeah. Yay. Oh, I feel like the guillotine's going down a lot faster.
Is it?
I think so.
Och, back again, are you? Yes, hello. All about your investigations. I read the report just now. You found him, eh? Vigil. Yes, luckily. Well, anyway, Larry doesn't work here anymore, so your case has naught to do with Barclay. I wouldn't like you to get the wrong idea about that. Of course, yes. Mr. Vigil stopped working here 10 years ago now, so...
Yes, we've seen his dismissal notice, haven't we? He was given the chop.
Aye, come here. You can very well, though. You can very well. How about to wear handcuff biscuit?
Oh, they really are like little handcuffs. And as hard as irons, too.
So, what brought you down here this day?
Yum, 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 yum.
Well, there's something else we'd like to ask you about, actually. Is that so? You believe there might have been a document that disappeared from Genshin Isugi's cell. I think it's been called the Isugi Papers or something. Immediately.
Immediately, the first conversation we have from leaving this guy who begged us not to talk about the thing is to bring it up.
Who showed more emotion than he's ever shown in his life, just to ask us not to tell it.
To please not tell anybody. He's like, oh, by what exactly? What name do you want us to refer to it as? Oh, so this name that definitely doesn't incriminate the fact that you specifically told us because it's a name. Like, we could have just been like, hey, we heard through the grapevine that Genshin wrote something. And then that would still give him a little bit of room to not remember, to have plausible deniability. But it's literally like, oh, this secret internal name that only you guys called it and referred it to.
I mean, Ryunosuke's just like, but before he get in trouble, he'll probably already have successfully jumped out that window, so.
Terrible. Terrible.
Shady said waiting for him to pull a gun on you now, telling you that you're about to join Windabank. Did I no say? Gregson's death had naught to do with things that might have happened at Barclane. Leave the past in the past, laddie. Let's not footer about with irrelevant details.
Let's not footer?
Did you not say footer?
No, I understood. I saw it too. Let's not footer. What does footer mean? Stress?
Let's not footer about it.
Let's not footer about it.
Don't footer over what that word means.
I'm gonna look it up. It can't be a spoiler to this game, so it should be fine.
And then you somehow find the biggest spoiler for the end of the game. His expressions changed completely. We're clearly onto something here.
Oh, here we go. Verb in Scottish. To fiddle around.
Don't fiddle and diddle.
I love that it had to be like specifically Scottish.
Yeah, it's there's a Scottish word. Like a lot of anything he says that you don't know is probably Scottish.
It's hilarious.
The murderer's botched execution, the whole miserable escape. They were Barclay's darkest hours, a shocking embarrassment. Because the convict had a collaborator on the prison staff, you mean?
Yeah.
Aye, for shame. The coroner who confirmed the death of the man after the execution, Courtney South. And my chief warder at the time, Vigil, who was in charge of the whole affair.
Courtney was the autopsy lead during 10 years ago? That's impressive.
No, she was that autopsy lead up until we got her busted. But she was working here 10 years ago.
Oh, okay, so she hadn't worked her way up.
But Mr. Vigil said he didn't know anything about it then.
What? I kept adding words there.
The rascal wouldn't say otherwise, eh? My handcuffs.
Oh, how could I say no? You can never have too much iron in your diet.
I mean, you can, but...
Well, for women, it probably isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah, but theoretically, iron overdose would exist.
Oh yeah, you can definitely have too much iron in your body for sure.
Like if you're 90% iron.
I am Iron Man. I died of iron overdose.
Listen, I don't think you'd be able to talk that well if you're 90% iron.
Listen, leave the Tin Man out of this.
You'd sound like a robotic Wookiee.
I'm not even gonna try. I was about to, but I'm not.
But Mr. Vigil was handed his dismissal notice as a result of what happened. He was so despairing, he jumped out of your office window, didn't he?
I didn't even like to say it, but that's just Vigil trying to get rid of it. Do you not think he wouldn't have jumped from the shock of his crimes be exposed, eh? I do.
Rude.
You wouldn't say otherwise, though, would you? Of course, I can't shun all responsibility myself. I shouldn't have let him deceive me. Actually, there's barely anybody that kens what went on at the time now. But Gregson had been murdered and Dr. Seth forbidden for having visitors. No visitors? Someone obviously doesn't want her giving anything away.
Well, we're not going home empty-handed.
And I wouldn't have dreamed of sending you packing without, Kimmer. Here, take a handcuff for two.
Oh, well, it'd be weird to say no. Wouldn't want to become anemic.
I knew it. I knew it. Look at me.
I suppose if there's anybody who might still ken about what happened, then it'd be at last from the forensic division. Maria Gory. Maria Gory? Aye, Seth's daughter. She didn't have no more, just the one. But the wee Barnes followed her mom's footsteps. You didn't ever see her without a scalpel in her hand. Ah. This is you.
I know.
Mama, what is this?
Ugh, where did she spring from? And did she just call the doctor Mama? Dr. Seth's daughter, Maria Gory. I could do with talking to her. Name?
I mean, Gory and Maria. I don't know. Or the Virgin Mary. I don't know.
Gory is precisely what it seems. And the wiki seemed to think that possibly Maria comes from Bloody Mary.
Ah, that could make sense. I could see that.
So, she's Dr. Seth's daughter, but her surname is Gory.
Oh, it's almost like she didn't change her last name.
Dr. Seth's last name was Stevens, though.
Oh, it's almost like she did change her last name.
Aye, there's some family history, I'm sure, but I didn't ken the ins and outs of it. She grew up watching her mom work with bodies of folks who died in strange circumstances, and decided to do the same with her own life. I can understand it myself.
Perhaps she was driven by a deep respect for her mother.
Perhaps. Anywho, she was in charge of Gregson's autopsy, I believe. Right, and the coroner responsible for this incomplete report. Someone once told me the world is gonna roll me. Someone told me that wee lassie always loved her mom's stories about cutting up bodies.
Why, there's sharpest tool in the shed.
I mean, he's not, but... Also, I'm not sure if you had noticed, the coroner was indeed Maria Gory the whole time in there.
Oh, I didn't know who she was.
Yeah, you didn't even read it out loud when you read it, so...
Yeah. I don't know.
There's even a rumor that she used to listen to the funeral march as a lullaby.
I mean, the funeral march is actually a pretty fun tune if you pick up the tempo of it. Isn't it the same as like the wedding march?
No, I don't think so.
And then the funeral is. Oh, you're right. You're right.
Susanna.
It is.
No, it's not.
It starts in the same.
Her mother might have told her about the autopsy from the case 10 years ago.
Listen, it doesn't matter.
I'd say there's a fighting chance at least. After all, that was a life-changing case for all of us. We really need to speak to Miss Goy about this, I think. Well, thank you very much. I'm not happy about any part of this. Took years for Londoners to finally forget the whole professor business. Can you not give up on this, laddie? Stop asking pointless questions. I'm sorry. I don't like dredging up these painful memories for everyone. Can you just stay away, Nu? Just leave me alone and don't come back here, eh?
Oh, give me a second.
Phone call? Phone call, yeah. Just a second. While we wait for that, I will just give a reminder of the rest of this week's schedule. Wednesday is our bi-weekly Monster Hunter Rise session. And Friday, we are going to be starting our Majora's Mask randomizer, which I've been spending the weekend getting set up. So I hope you guys will be able to turn out for that. It's going to definitely be interesting. I've never done it before. And yeah, I'd consider myself an expert of the game, but I would not, that doesn't mean I'm an expert at a randomizer.
I'm really excited for your Majora's Mask randomizer.
You're back.
To be a blast. It'll be so fun to see you experience the world that you care about so much in a different way.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk more about it at the end of stream.
Sure. I feel like you're gonna there might be a big risk of you actually not finding the ocarina on time and the world just ending. Or do you start with it? Maybe you start. I don't know. Either way,
I think you start with that. I'd have to look at it again.
Yeah.
I think you start with that in the Deku Mask, as if you went through the first cycle. I'm not sure. How do you come about that, laddie? There's no many folk even here in the prison who've heard of the papers. Well, can't tell him Mr. Vigil told me.
I'm afraid Mr. Vigil told me. I mean, our sources must remain confidential.
Humph. We've been led to believe the papers are actually a last will and testament. Is that right? The professor's, or rather, Genshin Asogi's. Aye, that's right. You're well informed, Jimmy. Oh, is that the end of the silent treatment? And my name's not Jimmy. But then after the kind of execution, it mysteriously vanished from his cell, didn't it? Havers, no. You're all that half-cocked there. I think you didn't quite get your facts straight. It was there in the cell, exactly where it should have been. Oh, not what we heard elsewhere. Let me just have a wheelie hawk around in here. I'm sure I can find it. Aye, here you are. See? The last will and testament of Genshin Asogi, written with a calligraphy brush. Of course, I can read a word of these Japanese squiggles. But in mind it says he leaves all his worldly possessions to his son back in his homeland.
Yes, that's correct. That's the gist of it.
So these are the Asogi papers. Aye, of course they are. Papers written by Asogi, no doubt about it. There's no mystery here, lady. That's a lie. After all, the Stramish show that slayster of an execution. Oh man, that's that slayster. That was a sentence.
Stramish, that slyster.
I'm just glad I managed to not completely flub that sentence.
I'm impressed. Yeah,
I'm just channeling my inner Scottish.
Yeah.
My ancestors that were definitely not Scottish.
Listen, your Scottish wear matters.
He sent the man's possessions back to his clan in Japan. That was the end of it.
I think we have to make a record of this, Mr. Naruto, just in case.
Meanwhile, English words.
I know, right? Let's look at those papers. Show me.
One more thing before you go away, Mr. Naruto.
Show me the papers. Genshin Ashogi, hereby request that upon my death, any and all material possessions belonging to me in London be delivered to my son Kazuma Asogi in the Empire of Japan. It is with deep sadness that I accept my fate in this foreign land, and in the knowledge that I will never see my family again, but I regret nothing about my chosen. Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Oh, yes? Those papers are not to do with Grigson's death. I'd prefer it if you did not make no mention of them outside this office. Or rather, I wouldn't just prefer it. Consider an order from the highest levels of our government. I understand.
We're definitely not gonna bring it up in court.
I understand. But Ryunosuke did not understand. What if it's just like because he's not a native English speaker, he just doesn't understand that concept of don't tell anybody.
Yeah,
It's just completely just misunderstanding the entire time.
it's rough.
Okay, where are we going?
Go down. Go down. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. There. Oh. Ooh.
Okay.
Ooh.
No arguments, Professor Asogi. Well, Prosecutor Asogi. Sorry, I see a bit of your father in you.
The sins of the father.
You will continue with this trial exactly as I instructed. Is that clear?
Perfectly.
It's Kazuma-sama.
Defying Lord Strongheart by the sound of it. He never did know when to back down. On your way now, Asogi.
My lord.
Kazuma. He left without saying a word. That's why I said he's my former friend. Yes, what are you doing here? Oh, well, I was just hoping to ask you for a few questions, if you wouldn't mind. I wanted Van Zeek's trial concluded today. But Prosecutor Asogi's unwelcome inquiries are going to make it take longer than necessary. Unwelcome inquiries? As a result, I'm losing even more precious time. Currently 2 hours, 55 minutes, and 41 seconds. 42. 43.
Then we must resolve everything before 3 hours have passed, Mr. Naruhodo.
In a miraculous not even 5 minutes? Anyway, I can't let the man's obvious bad mood put me off. I need information. What?
It's in the subtitle of this game, Resolve.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, we must resolve this case. That's what it's referring to.
No, it's talking about his resolve.
Agree to disagree, but it's okay. I'd like to think that it's referring to this specific mention of the word.
Does Prosecutor Asogi believe that Lord Van Zeek is the Reaper?
I grabbed something. Keep going. I can hear and see.
I wouldn't know. It was 10 years ago, in that fateful closed trial, that Lord Van Zeeks made a name for himself among the judiciary. But the next trial he fought, he lost. It meant the ringleader of a criminal organization was acquitted, thanks to all the jurors being under duress. But that's awful. The man's freedom was short-lived. He lasted just 3 days.
Yes, let me see. He died in a rock slide at his place of work, I believe.
Correct. That was the inauguration of the Reaper of the Bailey. It was the inaugural rock slide. And people believe Lord Van Zeeks was responsible. He was brought to trial himself, but it was shown to have been an accident. So he must have had a solid alibi then. Nevertheless, the mysterious deaths continued. In total, 16 persons perished in unusual circumstances, ostensibly at the hand of the Reaper. That's a long run of coincidences.
Well, the Reaper's true identity may well be revealed by this trial.
And the impact that revelation would have on the British public cannot be understated. Is that why it's a closed trial? Precisely. This country hasn't seen a closed trial for 10 years. So the last one was the Professor's, the trial of Genshin Asogi. Correct. Actually, we heard that originally. You were going to prosecute that trial yourself, Lord Strongheart. But Zeeks entreated me to relinquish the prosecution to him, that he might avenge his brother's death. And here we are, 10 years later. With the son of the man Van Zeeks had condemned now looking to avenge his father's death in the same way. They do say that what goes around comes around. However, it would seem that the new young prosecutor is harboring some ulterior motive as well. Kazuma is. I like my organization to run smoothly in the exact manner that I prescribe. As with the giant clock in here, I won't tolerate a single cog being out of step with the others. Ah, so that's what all this gear's about in here. If the young man refuses to mesh with the other parts of my great machine, I will be forced to take steps.
What do you mean?
Not something with which you need concern yourself. In any case, all your questions will be answered tomorrow. Now, I shall have to ask you to excuse me. As of this moment, I've been delayed from attending my next meeting by precisely 3 hours.
Lord, oh my, that's a long time.
And I hold you entirely responsible.
Even though we miraculously managed to fit everything into not even 5 minutes. I wonder if you might agree to us, talking with Prosecutor Asogi.
Discussions between the defense and the prosecution outside of the courtroom are generally frowned upon. However, I will make an exception in this case. Now go. You can find him in his office.
Oh, thank you.
Let's go see him at once, Mr. Naruto.
Kazuma's my best friend in the world, but I'm really not at all sure I know how to talk to him at the moment.
Okay. Now where?
To his office. It came up.
Prosecutor's office?
Yep.
So, this is the office of Prosecutor Asogi now, is it? Prosecutor Asogi.
Kazuma-sama is doing so well for himself.
Even though he's always forced to kneel on the floor Japanese style in that dark corner.
It's his habit to say Seiza style wherever he's working.
Kazuma.
I thought it wouldn't be long before you paid me a visit, Ryunosuke. I was right about what I said, wasn't I?
Sorry?
That you have all the markings of a great defense lawyer.
Markings?
Markings, makings. I thought I said markings.
Oh,
Make it.
Well, I always believed that you'd fulfill your dream of advocating in the British courts. I just never imagined for 1 second that it would be as a prosecutor.
Seeing you stand tall in a foreign courtroom, so gallantly realizing your dream, Kazuma-sama. I'm truly happy for you.
Calm down, Suzaru. You have a girlfriend.
I'm truly thankful to you, Judicial Assistant Mikotoba.
Ryunosuke, I always thought it would be fun for you and I to shake up the British legal system a little again. This isn't quite how I envisioned it. I suppose it's just another twist of fate.
I've learnt a lot of things during my time in London. About how Suzaru-san's father was himself a visiting student here once, along with Judge Chigoku. And about what happened with your father.
Then you'll have no difficulty in understanding. I had no choice. I had to find a way to get to Britain as a student visiting student myself.
I want to hear it from you, Kazuma.
As you wish, Ryunosuke. But first,
Let's insult Van Zeek's room. There's Lord Van Zeek's incredibly stylish desk.
it's not my style, though.
No, I noticed you've been working at a little table on the floor, kneeling down Caesar style. I thought it was some kind of punishment set up by Lord Van Zeek's when I first saw it.
I find it the most comfortable way to work.
I can't do it. After a couple of minutes sitting with their legs folded under me, they start to go tingly.
Don't exaggerate, Ryunosuke. We both know you can't even manage a minute.
Do you say the style at all ever?
no,
Like crisscross applesauce?
my knees.
What about your nephews? Ah!
My nephews.
My knee.
Lord Van Zeek's fine collection of hallowed chalices and bottles all neatly lined up.
Yes, he's extremely particular about all that. There's a strict regime. There's a strict regime for everything. The storage of the casks, the bottling of the contents.
Gosh, you must be having a really tough time of it, being his apprentice.
Actually, no.
Oh?
He's so particular about it all, he refuses to let anybody else touch any of it. It's been quite easy for me, in fact.
Talk about weird. Do you know who the man in this portrait is?
Some ugly weirdo, I guess. Sorry. Why would I?
What? You're Lord Van Zeek's apprentice.
Yes, apprentice, not friend. And during the time I was suffering from amnesia, I didn't even notice that picture.
Oh, really? I mean, it's not the smallest picture.
I wouldn't have the first idea what the man decorates his office with.
What the?
It's a scale model of the crime scene.
Oh, yes, I realize that. Does the prosecution office make a model of the scene for every single case?
Only when we're bored. Apparently so. Sometimes it helps to visualize things better and notice things that you hadn't spotted before. Actually, the miniature notice board is my work.
Be honest, you enjoyed making that.
I just imagine him making that cute little notice board.
Just cutting out the little strips of paper individually, like tight. Like, listen, I don't know if you do, but I watch those videos all the time of people making tiny foods on YouTube. Oh,
Oh, bats!
so good.
What?
picked up the bats, did you? Fitting companions for love antiques, wouldn't you say?
Actually, I've seen things flying in Lord Strongheart's office too. Doves, I think.
Perhaps you have to like birds to attain the ranks in the judiciary here. But bats aren't birds, of course.
How about a sparrow for you?
That's supposed to be.
Oh, nothing. Sorry. Just thinking out loud. Casks floor to ceiling, just like the last time we were here. Hallowed barrels, I suppose.
They're arranged according to vintage, flavor, and region. Every week, they're all taken out and put back in order.
What? Every week?
Well, Van Seeks can't seem to settle on the perfect way of arranging them, you see. Vintage, flavor, and region don't neatly coincide. It's a trouble.
Gosh, being his apprentice must be a real challenge.
He already established that he does it. Lord Van Seeks does it all. Ugh, actually, no.
Oh?
He considers the task too important to trust to anybody else, so he does it entirely on his own.
So he's a barrel of laughs here and in court, then.
Oh, so Rionosuke's just trying to find a reason to say a witty line about
It wasn't even that witty.
barely a joke, Rionosuke.
You can't just stick words into places and make it a joke. You need context.